nit ki bu sañoon dafay juboo ak ñu dëkkandoo te nit ki bu sañoon dafay màggee ci biir réewam waaye nit ak bëggam yàllaay dogal àdduna nii la
Go West used to be the command of a major German cigarette manufacturer. But in the West, smoking is mega out. Reeling under health damage claims going into the billions, manufacturers have been facing a continuing slump in sales, especially in the United States. The zeitgeist is against them. One of the major luxury goods and food companies discovered that it had been deserted, even betrayed, by some of its long-standing addicts.
That concludes my prepared remarks, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to just also say that in addition to my 20 years experience working in the motion picture industry and television industry, that I do believe that I have perhaps a better handle on addressing smoking and advertising. Years ago, I was diagnosed with inoperable lung cancer. I smoked for 30 years. I do believe I know what I'm talking about, sir.
Where have all the cowboys gone?
As smoking rates have declined in Europe and North America, and as there's been more and more pressure on the tobacco companies to behave responsibly, what's happened is that companies have simply moved to places like Africa, to Asia, to Latin America, where they can essentially get away with murder. I'm Ross Hammond. I work for the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids in the United States. We're trying to reduce the death and disease from tobacco. Over the past decade, the major leaf companies, the American leaf companies, have been building factories all throughout Africa for the manufacturing of cigarettes. Southern Africa, the major tobacco producers these days, Tanzania, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Kenya is now getting into tobacco production. They've spread into North Africa, into Tunisia, West Africa. They're starting to grow tobacco. It's become a sort of a continent-wide epidemic of tobacco growing.
Growing tobacco is a very labor-intensive business and involves 100 times more effort than growing wheat. 40 years ago, half the tobacco was grown in industrialized nations. Today, more than 3/4 are produced in the so-called Third World. In East Africa, hundreds of thousands of cheap seasonal workers willingly toil for just €1 a day. Africa's Miombo forests blossom from Angola in the west all the way to Tanzania in the east. Covering an area greater in size than India, the Miombo belt is the largest expanse of dry forest on Earth. This forest regulates weather conditions, delivers drinking water, feeds man and beast, but the forest is in danger. A beekeeper is collecting honey. In the cool of the night, the busy insects are less inclined to sting. Beekeepers hang up hollow stumps as beehives in the trees, from which they can easily tap the honey. The liquid gold is sold to Africa's distant cities. The desert is expanding. The forest is endangered. In the past 50 years, Tanzania's stand of trees has been considerably decimated. Although the major companies have expressed their intention to reforest, the country, once famed for its wildlife and nature reserves, is becoming bleak and bare.
I'm John Waluye, a journalist based in Dar es Salaam. I'm here standing on a hill south of Tabora town. I was born here about 50 years ago. Now, whenever I come here, I see great changes taking place. All of this place was full of big trees which are over 100 years ago, but these have been decimated by tobacco growers who use the firewood to cure their tobacco. As a journalist, sad to see how this good land, which used to be all forested with miombo, turning into a desert. I'm trying my best to do whatever is possible that things might change. The farmers are not quite happy because they've been growing the crop for nearly 30 years ago, but their living conditions are the same. Now their environment is destroyed. I don't know where these villagers will go after the coming 10 years.
Dar es Salaam on Tanzania's eastern seaboard. The port is the hub of the country and its gateway to the world. Impoverished farmers flee to the city only to be stranded in the squalor of the urban jungle. Daily News is the country's most widely read national daily, and John Valuya is one of its chief editors, a noted writer. For more than 10 years, he has been gathering information about environmental damage in East Africa, damage due to tobacco.
Why are you bothering about these tobacco things? And at least it is giving employment to the farmers and money to the country.
Fine, but listen, I come from Tabora. It's an area where tobacco is grown. That area used to have a lot of forest, but those things are all gone now. It's becoming a desert. There's less rain now. You know, my mama is still staying in the village. She has to wake up at 4 in the morning. You know, when I went there last time, she woke up in the morning and then, Mama, where are you going? So I'm going to fetch some water. At this time, say, yeah, you know, the water has gone down, the level, we have to dig deeper the well so that we get water.
From the port, the brown gold starts its journey overseas. Tobacco is one of Tanzania's major exports. For the deeply indebted country, one of the world's poorest, the sale of natural products is a matter of survival.
I'm here to look at this long line of tobacco processing. It's where it is processed and then it is exported to other countries worldwide. I'm following a story about tobacco which I started researching 10 years ago.
A tobacco community in the southern highlands, forests and plantations. Here wood is exchanged for tobacco. The light-coloured Virginia tobacco is cured over hot pipes. In African countries, wood is burnt for this purpose, as other sources of energy are too expensive for the small farmers. In the southern part of Africa, between the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, 450,000 acres of forest have been reduced to ashes within 5 years. The processing of tobacco is called flue curing. Green tobacco is subjected to hot air of varying temperature and moisture, turning it into the brown gold that the small farmers sell to the buying agents of the tobacco giants.
Kuhusu kuikausha tumbaku, kwa hiyo mnatumia kuni. Mnazipata wapi na inakuwaje?
Kuni tunazipata polini. Nadhani dalili ni hizi, utaona kwamba msitu ilikuwa mikubwa, sasa imetakata.
Inakuwaje sasa kwa vile miti hamna hiyo ya kuni? Mnaipata wapi?
Kuni tunaweza tukapata bahati tukaenda kukata mbali kidogo, kiasi hata maili 4-5. Tunaileta kwa kuwazima gari, inatubebea huku kutuletea hapa.
The highlands of Iringa. A big farmer like Nico Roussos needs wood to cure tobacco, masses of tobacco. There are only a few big farmers like the Roussos clan, but many small farmers depend on him, and even big farmers like himself feel hard-pressed since the tobacco majors started invading the country.
You have one door of barn, and in order to cure, let's say, 800 kilos, you require 6 to 7 cubic meters. And this is the only problem I see that the industry will have even for the future, unless the farmers grow trees. That includes commercial or big-scale farmers, however they're called, or small farmers as well. If tobacco is to continue in Tanzania, plantations of woodlands have to be established.
A German Tanzanian research safari. Social geographer Dr. Helmut Geist did fundamental research on tropical agrarian ecology in Tanzania and Malawi. His field of study is the cultivation of tobacco. Together with his Tanzanian friend John Valuya, he visits tobacco communities and farmers. He helps the journalist gather evidence about a largely unknown catastrophe.
Unsere Forschungen in Afrika haben ergeben, dass für 1 Kilogramm Tabak, Grüntabak, der schließlich mit Holz aufgetrocknet wird, 20 Kilogramm Holz verbraucht werden. Also ein direkter Beitrag zur Entwaldung. In Tansania verschwinden nach übereinstimmenden Schätzungen jetzt, die man seit Ende der 80er Jahre macht, jährlich zwischen 10.000 und 16.000 Hektar Wald aufgrund der Trockenerzeugung, der Aufbereitung durch Trocknung für Virginia-Tabak. Da ist in der Weltrangliste der Entwaldung durch Tabak ein Spitzenwert. Tabakanbau bedeutet einen aggressiven Beitrag für die Entwaldung von Tropenwäldern.
Fortunately, we are gifted with a lot of wooded area in our countries, but our statistics show that from 1900 there were about 31,000 square kilometers of forest in Uganda. To date, we have about 6,000 square kilometers left in Uganda, and a lot of it is being consumed by this tobacco. In Zimbabwe, I think the figure is closer to 15%. In Malawi, which is over here, it's about 26% of the deforestation in these countries that is being caused by tobacco growing.
You begin to wonder, was there a war here that people had started to burn the whole country? It is quite different. And the environmental degradation that has come with tobacco growing is so huge, irreplaceable. And definitely it has affected other sectors of the economy like tourism. Because nobody would want to come to that country and see bare mountains.
Forests provide food. Until recently, beekeepers lived here in modest prosperity. John Valuya's uncle is one of these.
The beekeepers say now they have lower production of honey because the bees can't find the flowers from the miyombo, and they have got to fly very far. My uncle, who is a beekeeper, is now getting less honey because the trees have been decimated by the tobacco growers. Unalionaje hili tatizo sasa la miti ya miyombo ambayo inakatwa nao wanaokata miti kuni kwa ajili ya kukaushia tumbaku? Imekuathiri wewe vipi?
Hiyo inaleta shida kwa kuwa hatuwezi kupata mashamba mazuri. Kwa hiyo inaleta tatizo kwetu, sababu miti vile vile hakuna, hata mvua vile vile inatuia tabu. Nyuki wanapenda sana kuchukua maua ya miyombo. Kwa mfano kama hivi miyombo hizi miwili, na kuna aina nyingine ya miyombo zilikuwepo hapa. Zilikuwepo hapa kama huna ule, na hapa pote walikuwa na miyombo kwenda hivi. Kwa hiyo pote hapa palikuwa na miyombo, lakini zimebaki kama miwili hizi, na hizi miti mingine hizi si kama vile zilikuwa zamani, watu wakizitumia pande zote mbili kuanzia Kiparapara na huko zaidi sana.
Wae nitakbagam buriya lay dogal aduna ni la ku ci sañ sa bañut sañ mën na nangu ndax aduna noonu la.
The small garden in front of the house is a tiny tobacco field, yielding just enough for the family. Light-coloured tobacco originally was not known here. Before the pale version from North America reached Africa, the people only grew tobacco for personal use. The Virginia varieties were later imported from overseas, in small packs, bearing cowboys and camels. They've conquered the globe. The leaf buyers came from America. Diamond, Stankham and Universal had staked out their claims in brown gold territory. Piles of tobacco, wood and chemicals are nothing but debts for the farmers. In the village of Magubiki, for example, the small farmers' existences depend entirely on tobacco. Farmer Henry and his neighbours may only buy from Diamond, the world's second largest leaf trader. Diamond collects the tobacco from the village, and Diamond supplies chemicals, seed and equipment. Diamond grants loans and also collects the dues.
Lakini pembejeo hizo zinatoka kama hivi zinaletwa. Sasa unakuta bei inakuwa sasa
bei wanaipanga.
Imepangwa tu.
Imepangwa huko lakini inakuwa kubwa sana. Ukilinganisha na ulimaji wetu. Kwa kweli pembejeo inakuwa
mapato labda hizi mbolea labda bomba.
Tushusha mkono wote. Eneo hili wakati ule tumbaku umeanza kuingia na hali ya sasa, umeona watu wangapi wameacha kilimo cha tumbaku kwa ajili ya matatizo?
Karibu wengi tu wanaolima tumbaku katika eneo hili ni kama watatu tu. Niko mimi na mtoto wangu hapa, alafu yuko kijana mmoja hapo ng'ambo anaitwa Mtono, alafu na kijana mmoja yuko pale juu. Huko juu sana kuna vijana watatu wanaolima tumbaku. Baada ya tulikuwa watu karibu ya 60 na wengi wameacha kulima tumbaku kwa sababu ya matatizo ya namna hiyo. Wengine hawana kuni kabisa.
In tobacco growing, yes, you use chemicals. The debts the farmers have to these leaf buying companies. It's a vicious cycle because they give them the loans because they don't benefit anything. In fact, they are now slaves of tobacco. You have made observations about farmers of tobacco. What were the findings that you have in your study?
This particular poor farmer is unable to negotiate with this person who has the resources, who has locked in a contract. I think buying companies have no mistakes. This is a market which is not organized. If it's not organized, they want to organize it their own way. In other words, it can only be a monopoly. The buying companies should be told about their limits.
Makato ya wakulima tulipoanza na hawa ya makampuni.
Sasa hivi unaweza kujua ni bilioni ama milioni ngapi makampuni?
Makampuni nasikia tu wanatueleza viongozi wetu wa union wanaokwenda kule juu wanasema kwa nchi nzima. Makampuni ya TFTC, Dimon, Stankham yanadai bilioni 13 za Kitanzania. Makampuni yamezuia, yamefunga akaunti za vile vyama. Ukitazama yana haki ya kufunga, biashara imekwisha, deni limeendelea kubaki. Kwa hiyo kampuni zilipokuja nazo zina sehemu ya kulaumiwa.
Dr. Turuka, I've been passing through Morogoro, and I happened to hear that you've done your thesis in tobacco.
What is occurring in the tobacco arena is that you have first new buyers coming in. You have also the new buyers setting their own prices, unlike in the past whereby the government used to set prices. It was a political decision to set the processing plants here. We have TLTC and we have Demons.
Is it American or?
It has ties with the Americans, the TLTC, yes.
Morogoro town has two big tobacco processing plants.
There was a time when the farmers said they refused to sell their tobacco. You know what? The accounts of the societies where they put their money. And they had to really bow down. Even the government, they collude with foreigners so that they can reduce even the price of tobacco.
A modern processing plant for dried tobacco. A major concern has set up factories all over the African continent. This one alone cost $30 million. John Begi, the general manager, is proud of the American company's commitment.
Who are the Tanzanian partners here?
There are no Tanzanian partners. No, this is completely 100% private. The owners of this company are American investors, which are the biggest dealers in the world as far as tobacco is concerned.
Last year, the farmers in Tabora were holding their crop because there were too many deductions in their sales. Did it affect your company?
Well, yes, it has affected it some. The companies have spoken at length with the various, with the, let's say, in the ministry, with the various councils and so on and so forth to resolve the matter, and I think they're on the right route to do so.
The river runs free across this land. As free as the man who rides beside it.
At harvest time, hundreds of women work here at the conveyor belts. Constant throat irritation and 12 hours high-speed work. A dream job for not even €2 a day.
You know, the other thing I think people need to realize is the power imbalance between the companies and the countries. I mean, take Philip Morris, for example, made almost $50 billion in tobacco revenues last year. That's more than the GDP of, I would venture to guess, all of Southern Africa combined, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Malawi. The countries which supply tobacco to the tobacco companies have smaller economies than the companies themselves. They're just mega corporations, very difficult to fight at a one-on-one level because the companies exert such influence through political payoffs, contributions, propaganda, funding growers' organizations.
There is no doubt that the tobacco companies are looking to expand their markets in developing countries. Philip Morris has something even more than that. They have become a transnational in every sense of the word. They are obstructing legislation, they're advertising aggressively. They have become a very powerful and a very dangerous force in terms of this whole international scenario. And they're using freedom arguments and economic arguments now above everything else to bully and to influence companies, that unless they opened up their markets and allowed the foreign companies to come in, and what's more, allow those companies to advertise, then their trade goods to the US, in fact, would be compromised. This kind of pressure has been going on considerably, and it's still going on in a slightly different form to this day. Philip Morris now is associated with unethical practices and of lying to governments, lying to the media, lying to their own consumers. They have simply lied. George Bush has a strong reputation for being in bed with the tobacco industry, that they gave him campaign contributions. He's very pro-business.
Every day. So forget about all that heart disease, cancer, emphysema, stroke stuff.
Basically, the big buyers at the auction are Universal Leaf, which is Limber Leaf, Standard Tobacco Packers, Stankom, Diamond, and the German firm which has come, the Remstar. They are a monopoly. They form a cartel, and then they fix up a price. They are much more richer than the government. It makes the whole thing a joke. Malawi remains the poorest in that region. Right now, people are eating husks. Right now, there's not even a single maize in my country. We are importing maize. We are exporting tobacco. Does that make sense?
No tobacco is being grown here. At a strategically located junction of roads and railways, the tobacco majors have built two of the world's most modern plants for the processing of cured raw tobacco, ready for export.
You say you will be expanding. What are your plans?
Well, I mean, the idea is to keep increasing production so that we aim to be able to handle at least, say, 40 million crop one day.
Do you have German customers to process your tobacco?
We have customers from Germany, yes, in this country. Yes.
Who are your customers that you process the tobacco from? Which company? The name of the company?
Well, I don't think they would like to know that we publicize for them. But we do have German manufacturers buying tobacco from us. I would say that at least 25%, 30%.
We drink milk in order to put our...
Are there any orders that you get from Germany?
Yeah, it's not depends. We have.
Which company is that?
It's a difference. Christmas. German.
Or the exact amount for the seed. You don't have? Come on. Where did he get the figures? Come. Shouldn't just fake that you ring me, then you don't. Okay? Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Mr. Valuye, are you often in contact with these cigarette companies?
Yeah, at times, but it's very difficult to get them.
They are very tricky, these people, you know.
So you think the Germans are importing tobacco from there?
Yes.
Since not many people know about what is happening in Tanzania about tobacco and the consequences of tree cutting and Rensma importing tobacco from Tanzania. I'm trying
if I get a ticket, I'll go to Germany and try to get in touch with these people.
John Valuya, the journalist from East Africa, on his way to Germany. It's not his first trip to Germany. He began his career many years ago in Hamburg, working for the weekly news magazine Spiegel and the Harburger Anzeiger. Former colleagues and friends paid for his ticket to go on this safari to hunt down the German tobacco giant.
I'm an environmental journalist, and from what I've seen in my home area, I'm trying my best if something can be done with the help of these tobacco control campaigners in other countries. If they can help so that at least either this tobacco gets another alternative or it is stopped altogether worldwide.
Dann sieht man hier lauter so kleine Löcher, wie so Mauselöcher. Das sind die erweiterten Ausführungsgänge von den Schleimdrüsen, weil die Raucher diesen schweren chronische Entzündung haben. Das wäre normalerweise eine ganz glatte Wand. Und durch die chronische Entzündung wird die Wand immer weiter zerstört. Also das entspricht ihren verwüsteten Landschaften. He was a heavy smoker. He was smoking for about 40 years.
40 years.
And he is smoking about 20 cigarettes per day. And of billions of tumor cells already here. Billions. And
can't you campaign so that these cigarettes are...
That's a very good idea. The campaign against cigarette industry is a little bit frustrating because there is a lot of lobbyism and a lot of money behind it. I'm living in Schriesheim at the slope of the mountains here. When I go out my house, I go down to the Rhine Valley, then I see the strawberry fields are gone and they grow tobacco because they get so much support, the farmers, for tobacco growing that they rather refrain from European community, the European Union. Yeah.
Okay, da gibt's eben nur.
The headquarters for the prevention of cancer in Germany are located on the edge of tobacco plantations in Heidelberg. A small group of stalwarts tries to stem the flood from the head offices of the tobacco giants. Smokers' hotlines, anti-smoking campaigns, information drives. They're modest means to counteract the marriage of convenience between a rich industry and a German government with shrinking revenues. John Valuya has invested a lot of hope into a close cooperation with the German grassroots activists.
Campaigning against tobacco. You are here in Heidelberg, but in the neighborhood there are tobacco farmers there.
Yes.
How do you relate this?
It's hard to live here with this context very clearly. And we tried also to get contacts with the farmers and asking them to change from tobacco to build up other agricultural products. And it's very, very difficult. Indeed, Germany is a developing country in tobacco control.
Und der deutsche Tabak ist nach wie vor, also der ist sogar gefragter wie in den letzten paar Jahren. Jede Firma sagt, ihr könnt noch produzieren, ihr könnt noch produzieren. Es ist noch Platz da. Tabak, das ist eigentlich die Haupteinnahmequelle in jedem Betrieb, der hier an der Bergstraße Tabak anpflanzt. Weit mehr wie das Obst und der Wein.
But we hope that there will be a changement by the European Commission's politic, not to continue with the subsidies by Brussels for the tobacco farmer, but to give money for the changement of their products and to find alternatives to tobacco.
You hope?
We hope so.
Wir können es jetzt sagen. Also wenn ich ein Kilo Tabak verkaufe, dann sind also erste Klasse sind das 4 Mark pro Kilo, wo ich von der Firma bekomme. Und mehr wie 5 Mark vom Staat. Zuschüsse, Subventionen.
Es ist eine bizarre Politik tatsächlich zum Tod, die eben auch von einer rot-grünen Regierung fortgesetzt wird. Es bedeutet, dass sich hier das politische Interesse durch Besteuerung von Anbau, Erzeugung und Konsum hohe Staatseinnahmen zu erzielen. Diese Staatseinnahmen sind zweistellige Milliardenbeträge fast in allen Ländern, was einen großen Blockadefaktor in einer effektiven Tabakkontrollpolitik bedeutet. Jedes Abstimmungsverhalten auf EU-Ebene oder auch weltweit sagt, dass man oft die einzige Gegenstimme von der deutschen Regierung stammt.
Germany's played an incredibly negative role in the European Commission. They challenged the advertising directive, which would have enacted a very progressive ban on tobacco advertising in the European Commission, challenged it in the court, and now we're back to square one again. It seems that whenever there's a conflict between tobacco companies and public health, the Germans come out on the side of the tobacco companies. The German government in international forums has become little more than a mouthpiece for Reemtsma. Jesus, I'm gonna get killed for that.
Tobacco brings money. Worldwide tobacco consumption is growing, and with it the turnover for the tobacco industry. And Germany profits too. Germany is one of the last countries to ban cigarette advertising. Cigarettes are subsidized at rates 20 times higher than those for grain, so that farmers in France, Greece and Germany can go on growing tobacco, even though every day more than 300 people in Germany alone die as a result of smoking. As many dead as in an airplane crash. And the inquisitive journalist from East Africa naturally asks, why isn't anyone doing anything about it?
The campaigns that these cigarette companies are doing to sell their tobacco and cigarettes in developing countries, I think it will be a disaster.
And Africa is becoming the ashtray of the world as more and more people are smoking and as the Western tobacco companies dump their cigarettes on us.
And I hope you as a doctor and other anti-tobacco activists will try to push different governments so that...
Well, I'm very, very disappointed by the German government and the Germans' position on tobacco control. Clearly they are being influenced by the fact that Germany is a large exporter of cigarettes, and the European community's position is a weak one, and it's being influenced by Germany. Now, of course, if you look at the tobacco industry documents say very clearly that RIMSA and the German tobacco industry has very close and good contacts with the German government. And I have no doubt that they are influencing the German government position.
Germany is one of the largest exporters of cigarettes. For 3 weeks, between Munich and Hamburg, John Waluja has been searching for support for the campaign against the tobacco giants in his home country. However, he finds that the warriors against smoke and vapour are powerless in the face of the blossoming empire of the German tobacco industry. That's why we try to talk to the politicians responsible. Finally, one politician from the opposition party openly expressed his opinion.
10 Milliarden Euro Einnahmen aus der Tabaksteuer entsprechen vielfach schon den Haushalten kleiner Staaten. Sich von der Sucht der Bevölkerung abhängig zu machen, ist schon ein gewisses Problem, wenn es um die Finanzierung von Staatsausgaben geht. Die Bundesregierung verhält sich hier zwiespältig. Es ist natürlich fragwürdig, wenn Philip Morris der Bundesregierung Nikotinkampagnen, Anti-Nikotin-Kampagnen finanziert. Also hier muss auch mal der Finger in die Wunde gelegt werden. Das ist absolut unglaubwürdig.
The German government is getting a lot of money from the tobacco industry. The annual Tanzanian budget is about 7 billion. It's nothing.
Of course, the consumers, if the consumers stop, then everything is stopped. They can shoot gums or something else.
Maybe I'll be able to see one of the top bosses of Rensman. I don't have any contact, only that I'm following up because I know they're buying tobacco from Tanzania.
Yeah.
And to complete this whole story, I need them to say something. They don't want to see me, but I'll try. I might parachute inside.
Ich habe 2 Journalisten hier aus Tansania in Aufnahme. Wissen Sie da etwas von, wie wollen wir uns verhalten?
Can I have some few minutes to talk to you about tobacco? Because I've come from Tanzania where tobacco is grown and exported to here. You don't have time? Why? And okay, thank you.
Okay.
They have no time for me, so they say I should contact her maybe later on. Well, it seems they don't want to see me. Okay, then I have to reach her by internet. I want this cause known to the world. Not many people, really Germans, know that Rensma is killing us. How are you going to fight it?
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله
In Africa, women are the custodians of tradition and culture, the family, and the upbringing of children. In their search for future markets, the tobacco corporations have greedily spotted young females as the next smoke sacrifices. The soul, heart and lungs of the African continent stand wide open facing the invasion of Marlborough cowboys and the camel caravans. On the dark continent, the cigarette machinery rattles. The investors' hearts soar with joy in view of the rising numbers of people smoking in the Third World. A study of the World Bank estimates that in the next 3 decades, more people will die from smoking than from AIDS, malaria and tuberculosis combined.
Vous êtes la nouvelle génération qui fume.
Oui. Quoi?
Je veux dire, on est
la nouvelle génération qui fume. J'ai un énorme plaisir de fumer. Ici au Maroc, on ne dit pas qu'il ne faut pas fumer parce que c'est grave pour la santé. Ils disent qu'il ne faut pas fumer parce que c'est un tabou. Ils fument dans les toilettes, toujours en cachette. Ils ne peuvent pas.
Et pourtant, vous savez que c'est pas bon.
C'est pas bon dans le sens que l'individu doit avoir sa liberté totale. Par exemple, moi, je suis sortie de ma maison, maintenant je vis plus avec mes parents, je vis seule. Donc c'est différent.
C'est l'émancipation de la femme qui joue un rôle.
Moi, je remarque que la plupart des femmes qui fument sont les femmes qui ne se marient pas tôt. Ils vivent seuls. Je crois qu'ils fument pour casser leur solitude.
Everywhere we look, women, young girls are beginning to smoke against many cultural traditions, against Islamic traditions, against the Confucian tradition that nice girls don't smoke. I think the worrying aspect is that the smart young girls in the city are the very people who are starting to smoke. It is not an emancipation, it's a bondage. They're moving from one bondage into another bondage. Is that if women smoke like men, they die like men. In fact, it's even worse than that because they have a whole additional problems of infertility, of cancers like cervical cancers. It's actually worse.
Would you give a cigarette to your unborn child? You do. Every time you smoke while you're pregnant. Pregnant mothers, please. Don't smoke.
Of course, you go around the town here, there are so many billboards for tobacco. Some say, well, it's fashionable to smoke, especially young men and women. When they see the adverts, they think that you smoke, you look beautiful more.
They've been captured by these adverts in the billboard or in the newspapers.
This is a beauty contest. They are sponsored by the Tanzania Cigarette Company. They pick some women with big buttocks and are dancing, you know, with their advert there. That's smoke. And they are giving times when I saw they gave out free cigarettes.
Three, all three.
Now you discuss.
Wewe mwenyewe unavuta. Kwa nini usivute wewe unauzia wenzio?
Ningependa kwa kuvuta lakini sijui maana yake.
Baadaye huwa haileti, inaweza ikaua njaa.
I looked into a newspaper and I jumped directly into huge advertising of Tanzania cigarette company.
Of course, the publishers depend on adverts. For one advert, one page, they get a lot of money, maybe about 400,000 Tanzanian shillings.
If you want openly write about the problems with these companies, you might cause problem for your own job.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the end will be. Maybe I might be sacked and lose my job. Whenever I write an article, which may be sensitive, which might not be printed by a newspaper, I'll send it to all these newspapers and magazines in Hamburg.
J'en connais qui préfèrent matin bonheur comme café. J'en connais qui aiment au lit comme une nana. J'en connais qui aiment au lit